Good morning. Thank you for listening to WXOX 97.1 FM in Louisville, Kentucky. This is Artist Talk with LVA. I'm your host, Keith Waits. The show is produced by Louisville Visual Art. But today, I've got three theatrical people with me today. The first one has been on the show before. Juergen Tossmann has been Bunbury Theatre's producing artistic director since 1991. 30 years ago, he guided a struggling fledgling company to health and artistic prominence. Under his leadership, Bunbury developed two venues. Most recently, in 2007, the company turned an old gymnasium in the Henry Clay building into a 140-seat state-of-the-art theater. That theater currently serves two companies, Bunbury, Pandora Productions, and until very recently, the Liminal Playhouse, but that's another story. Before Bunbury, Juergen worked as an artist-in-residence teacher, actor, freelance director, assistant director, production stage manager, prop master, acting coach, and co-founded an improvisational theater company. The myriad positions at theaters all over the country prepared him for a job that will last over 30 years. At Bunbury, Juergen has produced over 200 shows. In 2020, he received the Kathy E.B. Ellis Lifetime Achievement Award from Arts Louisville, and he is sort of stepping down, and that's why I've come to talk. And he's going to hand over the reins to two young Turks. Skylar Vest attended Georgetown College, where he earned a BA in theater and directing. Since 2017, he has been working with Bunbury Theatre, most recently with the title of Artistic Associate. And Hannah Brooks is a local prop and costume designer who has been active in the Louisville theater community for the last 5 years or so. They have worked primarily with Bunbury Theatre on shows including The Green Book, Grace and Gloria, Boat Ride, and Visiting Edna. Recently, Hannah has been a dresser for the Kentucky Opera and worked for Commonwealth Theater Company. So thank all three of you for being here today.
Yeah.
Juergen, let's start with you. It's been a long ride for you, and with a lot of success, a lot of ups and downs. I think everybody, if anybody's ever worked with, for, or around a nonprofit, they know that it's always an up and down struggle, no matter how much success you have. But so you are finally, what you say is passing the torch. So talk to us a little bit. What's that decision? Why now? And what are your feelings about this choice for yourself?
Well, the pandemic really helped me to step back and take a hard look at my career and what I have done and able to accomplish at Bunbury, and to look at the potential new leadership, and to kind of make some decisions in my life, whether I wanted to continue on and to move through as we came out of the pandemic, or as I turned 67 and recognized I could get my full Social Security benefits. Was this a good time to do that? And so I did a lot of consulting work with myriad colleagues who have done the same type of thing, and it all pointed to the same place. It's time to step down. It's time to step away and allow the new leadership, Hannah and Skylar, to step in, take the reins of Bunbury, and lead Bunbury through the next 35 years. So I'm excited about that. And I'm really, really happy for the both of them.
Well, how consciously have you been maybe mentoring these two to take on this role? Like, in other words, you're announcing your decision now, but the fact that you have these two people that are in a position to step up hasn't just happened in a vacuum.
No, it didn't happen in a vacuum. As a matter of fact, we've had conversations about this for probably the last 3 or 4 years. And my timetable moved up, obviously, but it wasn't as a complete, it didn't come as a complete shock, I guess, to Hannah and Skylar, that it was an inevitable decision. And so, yeah, so we've been talking about it for quite some time.
Okay. Well, Skylar, let's move to you next here. So how does it feel to be in this position and to be given this responsibility? And Hannah, you'll be, I want you to answer this question too, as soon as Skylar's wrapped up his answer.
Yeah, so we have been talking about it. I will say, though, that we didn't, also to clarify, we didn't know how soon it was going to be until 6 weeks ago. too as well. So there was a sense of, we've been talking about this, but when 6 weeks, it's, you hear a day. And like I said, I thought when he said June, I thought he meant June of 2023, not this June. And I had to clarify and ask him that. So that was, so it wasn't a complete shock, but it was like, oh, it's happening now. And it was a lot. It's been a busy 6 weeks, to say the least, getting prepared. And we've hit the ground running over the past 2 or 3 weeks, getting things done. But I'm excited. I've always wanted to run a theater company even before I knew it. I've been doing theater since I was 11 years old. Started with the great Shelby Steege, always throw her name out.
Yeah.
And I started acting. And then in college, I decided to save everybody from that and moved in and really got interested in directing and producing and finding out what producing actually meant and learning. And then coming to terms with the fact that I want to run a theater company. I may not know all of what that takes yet or what it is, but I know that's what I want to do. And everything I've done since then has been I think, a conscious decision to reach that goal. I didn't know where it would be at. I didn't know how it would happen or anything, but yeah, I'm excited. And there's a lot to look forward to in the future. And we've received a lot of really good feedback, I think, since the announcement from a lot of different people, which is great.
Well, and Hannah?
It's been a lot. I have wanted to change the world through theater for as long as I can remember. Much like Skylar, I am a theater kid. You know, I was in my first production at like 3rd grade, 8 years old, and I fell in love. I didn't realize when I was going into college for theater that this is where I would end up. I thought I was going to be on the stage and it would be a track for acting. And then I fell in love with behind the scenes and costuming and props. And that has actually worked out far, far better for me than if I had tried to consistently perform, because without falling in love with backstage, I might not have ended up at Bunbury. And Bunbury has given me the chance to do everything I've wanted, from design and photography to graphics, and stepping into the role as an artistic associate has been an incredible experience for me, and something that aligns with the rest of the things that I do for Bunbury. But it's also, it feels like this is a whole new chapter of artistic associate, partially because of Juergen leaving, and now it's just Skylar and I, and we have to figure everything out on our own. But I think that that's something that we're really good at and that we really like to do together. I mean, I think we are consistently talking and problem solving and figuring out the next moves, even if it's just via text every day. So we're essentially inseparable in one way or another. And I don't think I'd want to try to be an artistic associate for a company that is so beloved and that I love so much without Skylar by my side. I think it's very important that we work as a team. So I'm honored that he has stepped up as producing artistic director, because in the last few years, just like Juergen said, with the pandemic, I came to realize that I wanted to be a designer and to stay in the artistic side of the world as much as I could, but that I had administration skills and things that I really wanted to bring to Bunbury to keep it alive and to maintain it and to kind of push my goal to have theater change the world. This is the way that I can influence theater locally. And I think that's really important. And it's part of why we have worked so hard and why I really love working with Skylar, because I'll come to Skylar, you know, and I'll say, I really want to do this. I think this is a great thing to try to break into or to tap into. And he's just like, well, all right, let's figure out how to do it. And, you know, it's amazing not to have roadblocks, but to have someone who's consistently like, okay, let's do it. And Juergen provided that as well. It's just, we have very much been in a state of change. At our board retreat, we kind of identified Bunbury as a phoenix right now. We are rising from the ashes into a whole new identity. And that's what really excites me. And that's why I am here and want to do this every day for possibly 30 years, Juergen.
I'll be dead, but yeah, sure.
But I'll be almost your age.
That's right.
Well, Juergen, that raises an interesting point, talking about the importance of effective communication. Was a part of the decision, watching how these two work together? Was that something that was really on your mind?
Their passion was really on my mind. I mean, they have demonstrated their abilities over time. And so that was never in question for me. It was their passion and desire to do this, which really drove me to make a decision as early as I did. I mean, I could have prolonged it, gone another couple of years, and then, you know, I just think the timing was absolutely right for that. They, as they've already articulated, they've been wanting to do this since they were kids, and now, their vision is coming to fruition. And so it wasn't a hard decision for me just to say, look, tell my board it's time for me to go, and put your trust in these two people. And I believe that they have.
Well, I want to ask, Hannah, you are also involved, or have been involved with so many other kinds of organizations, most recently Commonwealth Theater Center. And I'm not even sure, I want to say you worked with Looking for Lilith on stuff. And so will you still be able to have those kinds of relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things that Skylar and I talked in depth about when we decided on kind of splitting this path the way that we did was that not only did I want to design for Bunbury, but that I wanted to continue to be a full-time designer for any company that wants to hire me. And I have been able to do that in part because now, as an artistic associate, I can go out and hire other designers that I know and I trust. And that allows me to go and work with other companies. For instance, Morgan Young designed Look What the Fire Did for us. And there was no doubt in my mind that she was the perfect person for that show. And it took so much off my plate, which was really great because I was knee deep in other shows, as I always am. But I think that's what I really love about this job, is that I can do what needs to be done. I can do what I want to do, and I can fill the gaps with people that I really trust. So yeah, I plan to pretty much design with whoever will hire me for as long as possible. Everyone who works with me knows that, Bunbury is my home and my heart, and that they kind of come first. But now it's being more understood that I'm in a position to hire designers and then go and work with other companies, and I'm not leaving Bunbury, high and dry or anything else. I think I've worked multiple jobs since I was about 16 or 17. So, balancing various companies, it comes fairly natural to me.
Well, and Skylar, that makes me wonder about, when there's this kind of transition, it seems like it's really tempting, and perhaps sometimes very justified, to look at it as a turning point, not only in this company, but in maybe the way theater is being done in general. Now, I think Louisville's theater community has been very collaborative and supportive. But Skylar, do you see more that sort of support and collaboration is maybe going to be more important to local theaters in the future, like that maybe Bunbury might even get into that sort of collaboration more formally?
Oh yeah, and I don't want to, because we're in some early conversations and stuff with people in various organizations, but we're already talking about that with different groups. We've been brainstorming amongst ourselves too, with groups that we haven't even reached out yet. And of course, we've always, by sharing the space, Bunbury has had a relationship with Pandora for years, and space and resources. And that relationship, I've met with Michael about this already. We've talked in depth. That relationship's going to stay the same, and hopefully all these relationships will grow. And it's exciting because, thinking about it, where the place that Hannah and I are in, there's not many companies in this town that have been in a place where they've been able to survive long enough to have a leadership transition. And so it's kind of an honor, really, in this community. It doesn't really happen too often. So that it does come with some pressure, but it also comes with the whole thing of we're kind of treading some new ground, which is exciting. And And just to expand some of what Hannah said and their place here, and they're all about that community engagement. And I'm, responsible for the day-to-day operations, much like Juergen is. But every single meeting I go to, every single thing I sit down to work on, Hannah knows what I'm doing. I'm considering their thoughts and our discussions amongst ourselves with everything that we do. And their insight is incredibly valuable, and vision really on where we see this company going and where we see Louisville theater going. And so we're hoping to continue to expand how we collaborate and how we work. And I think a lot of companies are primed for that coming out of the pandemic, because we all need each other. It's always hard to make art. We all know that for various reasons. But we need it now because everybody's in a place where we're all kind of starting over from round one. So.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that you mentioned co-productions and things like that, because I think that Bunbury over the last few years in co-producing with Spiel has gotten really good at those co-pros, but we would like to extend those relationships to other people. And like Skylar said, some other organizations that we haven't quite reached out yet to. We have a long rolling list that we have kept track of, and people come up and we check in with each other and, move forward how we need to. And it's funny that you bring up the connections and such, Skylar, because when this was announced last week, I had a couple of people who I've had in the back of my mind come to me about new projects. And so it was almost immediate that people, jumped to come and work with us. I'm not shy about wanting to work with other companies or throwing my ideas out there. And now that this is, public and we're moving forward, we'll definitely be forming new, more public relationships with other companies and continuing on with Bunbury Spiel. But yeah, we see this as a gateway to work with anybody that we can and anybody who would like to come with us. I mean, we have tried to be open and inviting, and I think that's a lot of what Bunbury is, but we want to take that even further and continue to form really lasting, meaningful partnerships in the Louisville theater community.
And when you say Spiel, just to clarify, that is Spiel Identity Theater, which is based in Chicago, but is run by David Chack,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Who is originally from Louisville, correct? Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's part of how that connection has come to be.
Yes.
You must have known each other.
Oh, we've known each other for, maybe close to 30 years, I think. So yeah, we've known each other a long time.
Juergen, when you listen to these two young Turks talk about all these things, does it take you back 30 years to when you were taking the reins?
Oh my God, they don't even know what they're getting into right now. Yeah, it takes me back. It really does. I mean, I had a tremendous desire and passion to do something in theater and move my career forward, but I didn't know what it was. And I remember last week I posted on Facebook, and a friend of mine, Chuck Schmidt, who is the lighting designer for Stage One and the opera and the ballet, and he was production manager for a couple of those companies. When I first got into town and I was with Stage One, we sat at the Bristol, and Chuck turned to me and he said, "What do you really want to do with your life?" And I said, "I think I want to run a theater company." And we both laughed. And so I had no idea what I was getting into. I couldn't read a balance sheet. I didn't know what a board of directors was. I didn't know how to fundraise, all of those things. But I knew that I was committed to the artistic process and that I could learn and seek out those mentors that would help me. And I was very lucky, very fortunate to find people that took their time, sat with me, walked me through a lot of things. And before I knew it, the Bunbury was moving from a $20,000 deficit, which doesn't seem like a lot these days, but if you put it in $2002, it's like over $2022, it's like over $40,000. That's a lot of money. So yeah, we needed to retire that and then build out a new space. And I think, as I've said to Hannah and Skylar, ad nauseum, they're getting something that I didn't have when I took over. And the company is in really great shape in terms of, our visibility in the community and the region. We're a very accomplished organization. Professionally, people look on at Bunbury as one of the top theater companies around. It's a solid board of directors, and a space. And I didn't have that. So yeah, I see what's that. And Skylar said, he didn't think it would be so quick. I mean, 6 weeks. But you know what? I was thinking about that, as the conversation has been going on. And I watched Skylar and Hannah really take over Circle Mirror Transformation, and look what the fire did. They did it all. I really did the administrative stuff, but they did the artistic, and they brought those 2 shows to fruition. And they were great shows with wonderful casts, great direction. And so it wasn't really hard for me to go, okay, if they're ready for all the administrative stuff, they're certainly ready for the artistic stuff. So it's been a good 6 weeks, I think.
Well, I agree. I reviewed both those plays, and I agree with you that on that they both had a lot of strength, and were among the best things I'd seen at the company in my time, which is about 15 years, I guess. I've been back in town looking at you.
Yeah.
So Skylar and Hannah, what then are first steps now that you're in charge? You've talked about your vision and people talking to you, but what do you have? Is there a season planned? Is there? I'm not asking you to make announcements, but what are your sort of very concrete steps that you're taking right now?
There is a season. We're finalizing it right now. It will be announced in no later than the opening night of our next production, which has been a huge focus. Speaking of Bunbury Spiel, we have a show opening on July 27th, Indecent by Paula Vogel. And rehearsal started for that on Sunday. Tickets go on sale June 27th, next Monday. We've already started to talk about getting the word out on that. Posters are already starting to go up around town. So that is the immediate first step there. Then there is the immediate first step of getting used to all the practical stuff that people don't think about, like going through all the accounts, making sure you have all the passwords. I've been on the phone some with Gary trying to figure out, how do we get mine and Hannah's names on the cards and the bank accounts? How quickly can we make this type of stuff happen? All that stuff that people don't think about, that takes a while to get settled in when it's been done by one person for 31 years. So those are the big things: getting the season in place and getting our next show up and running. Hannah, do you want to add to that?
Well, I was just going to say that it felt like we turned around and you were like, all right, well, I've started applying for rights and now we're going to do this and this. And I was like, okay, great. And I'll get on the website. So, I mean, we both have rolling lists. And I think one of the things I really love about working with Skylar is that he knows that there is a sense of urgency and that we have to get these things done. But he also knows that I work at my own pace. So my to-do list will probably start to be worked on late tonight, because I'm a bit of a night owl, and that's when I find the time to do things. But it's so nice to have that ability, because we know what has to get done, and we're here to keep each other accountable and to just keep moving through what is a massive to-do list. In preparation for this, a couple months ago, Juergen sent us an entire document to-do list, and it was every single thing he could possibly think of that occurred before the pandemic that was his responsibility, and then the added responsibilities that came with the pandemic. And Skylar and I took 2 or 3 hours and we sat down and we said, okay, this is Skylar and Hannah. Skylar can do this, but Hannah can step in if we need to. We have detailed notes on how each of us function, what our roles are, what to do if the other person needs, if I need Skylar to sub in for me for something quick. We've got all kinds of contingency plans, and Yeah, I mean, I think it's really comes down to our communication, the fact that we can talk to each other and then it's just immediately, or as close to as immediately as either of us can do with, other jobs, it gets done.
Well, you're also talking about, we're talking about a transition, but
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation was that, not to contradict Skylar exactly, but we see transitions, but we don't always see orderly
Mhm.
transitions. We
Yes.
don't always see, the passing of the torch, as Juergen said, where all you're talking about all these through lines, that he was giving to you and you were picking up so that he could do this now, and you guys are ready to do, it sounds like there's not going to be a lot of disruption, or a lot of bumps in the road. And we all know, we can think of many examples where we've seen people leave, and even when it has been, not that I'm suggesting it here, but it's like then the new person comes in and it's kind of like you see those balance sheets and go, what? you know that seems to be the more consistent thing in a lot of arts organizations, and they survive and they go on, and sometimes they don't, but mostly they do. But I really like the idea that what we're witnessing here is people who have been smart enough and prepared enough and had faith in each other enough to not let it be like that.
No, not at all. I mean, even before this was publicly announced, Skylar and I had started tackling, okay, who's going to do what for Indecent, who's going to be on the ground for Tech Week, all of the odds and ends that we have to take care of in preparation for what is going to be, a pretty big production for us. And that, like, I think that momentum and that smoothness has been just, we couldn't work without it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we're talking about over a year of, preparation of, putting together some answers for the board of directors about, why, what your vision is and how you should, how you feel like you can move the organization forward. There's been a lot of thought that's gone on to
Mhm.
this. And so, yeah, it hasn't come out of the blue. It came out quick, but not out of the blue.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you said the answers to the board, and I know that we have those, but then the board hasn't even seen the like mass amount of notes that we have taken together.
Right.
There was a point in the pandemic where we were spending 4 or 5 hours on Zoom together, going through the master list that he gave us and all of this other stuff, and prepping plans for COVID, plans for educational outreach. I mean, anything that we could think of, we filled our time by coming up with plans and strategies and notes. And even if it was just a note of go and talk to this person, because we don't quite know how to do that yet. So yeah, the board has seen a fraction of what we have actually compiled in like a whole big sense.
And they've been great to say, because everybody has ideas of what board and directors are and what they can be and how people can behave. Everybody on the board, and I think Juergen and Hannah can attest to this, they've been great with the transition. They've rolled with the punches of how fast it was, because they maybe some of them weren't quite as prepared for as we were with this. And they've put their trust in us and in the organization and in Juergen, and they've all hit the ground running with how they can help the company and what they can do. So there hasn't been any of the drama laden transition where there's fights back, behind closed doors. People were disagreeing. Board members didn't know what was going on. None of that. It's been very smooth, and we like it that way. Anybody who's done a show with me when I've directed, they know that I'm not a believer in you have to, have knockdown, drag out conflicts and suffer to make great art. I've never been that way. I like everybody being open, honest, doing their best work, trusting each other, and being home at the end of tech rehearsal by 10 p.m. in bed, and not worrying about, oh my God, why do we have these fights that night, all night long? That's kind of my method of how things should run. So,
there are a couple actors out there, Keith, who are going, damn, I wish he'd have been in charge instead of Juergen.
Were you ever a terror, Juergen?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I was. I mean, you know, I really felt in my youth that I knew what was best. And I made some mistakes with people. And I was very demanding of people, and I focused a lot on the details. I wanted to make sure everything was right. And I controlled a lot of it at the beginning of Bunbury because Bunbury was coming out of a really, oh, I almost said that word, coming out of a really bad place, and where the company had gone way down. And I knew that if the company was going to come back, it was going to come back on my shoulders, and I had to make sure it was right. So I was very tough on some people. I was very compassionate and empathetic, but I was tough on some people. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what it took.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Well, you're, I think this sort of speaks to the change in culture too. Not that, I mean, I was just kidding when I said, were you a terror? But the kind of toughness you're talking about was a way I think people had to prove themselves. Certainly, I think we, you know, a lot of women always had to, you had to show toughness or people didn't have confidence in you and all these different kinds of things that and it seems like we are in a moment or have been in a moment for several years, but we're not out of it, you know, of where the culture is changing so dramatically,
right,
and the way people behave in artistic processes that are behind doors is no longer behind doors. That has to be made more transparent. And again, I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on you or anybody in town, but you know, you came of age at a time when the sort of dictatorial artistic director was the way things were done.
mhm,
Right? You
that's right.
you were expected to behave a certain way if you were going to gain the confidence of your board and of your staff and all those kinds of things. And it seems like we're as you pass the torch, these new younger people are having a much different attitude about how they're going to work through problems.
Right.
Does that, I mean, that's what I feel like I'm hearing these different viewpoints. Hannah, what's your reaction to that?
No, absolutely. You are correct. And I mean, I have had stage managers and actors and people come to me outside of Skylar's rehearsal and really tell me that it is a nice, safe space. And, you know, we work with a lot of different people, and I'm someone who gets anxious and things like that. So it's really important to me to make a safe space for our actors that is inviting and that isn't, you know, under the rule of an iron thumb. And I think that, or an iron fist, I think that Skylar has done that. And I think that that is shown in the fact that we have stage managers coming back and working with us, and that we have artists who want to come back. And yes, we are absolutely open and adamant about changing the environment of the rehearsal room, the environment of tech week, the environment of the run. We want people to come and have fun. You know, we're making art. We're doing something that's important, but it's not the end of the world. Like, you know, just come and be you and make art with us and have a good time. That's what we want. We want to change the world, but we don't want to make an unsafe space for people who are trying to come and play with us.
Well, and Skylar, let me
Mhm.
ask you, I think, an important question, because before we lose track of time here. So is Juergen Tossmann on your short list of possible directors to hire for plays in the future?
It- I don't. Jurgen has made it pretty that he wants to, at least for a while, wants to just take a step back and let things kind of, well, one, just relax, and two, to give us a chance. I'll say it again because I've said it before. I would love to do at some point a revival of a Bunbury classic at the holidays, Butterfinger Angel. But I would really love if Jurgen stepped in and directed it, because that is kind of it is part of Bunbury's past. It's something he's familiar with. It's something people love. If people have a familiar history with Bunbury, the title of the play is even longer than that, but I'm not going to waste the next 15 minutes saying it. But I would love to maybe do something like that in the future, in the next 2-3 years.
Well, and Jurgen, you're actually, and I said director, but you maybe have been more of a prolific writer in recent years. So if you write a new play, is Skylar and Hannah, they're going to be your first call?
Well, that's a really good question. I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, I've just been thinking about living in the present right now. So I'm not really focused on the future, what that's going to bring. I mean, I would hope that, they have enough, respect and confidence in me that, um, that they would approach me at some point, or if I felt like I wanted to approach them at some point, that, you know, um, we could get together and perhaps, come to some agreement about a creative project. But as Skylar said, right now, I've made it pretty clear. I just want to step back, allow these two to do what they do, make their mistakes, go on, live and have fun with their successes, and just get out of the way so they can do that without me, over their shoulder or having to look to me. I think that was a big part of my decision with the board, because the board wants to keep holding on. People want to keep pulling you back in. And I've made it pretty clear, don't pull me in, because if you're pulling me back in, you're not giving the new leadership an opportunity to do their own thing and allow them to, have success without me there and make mistakes and fix them and go on. They need to do all of that by themselves and not have me over their shoulders. So, yeah, I think that answers your question. Keith.
Are you planning to travel a bit?
Well, I'm thinking about that. Yeah, my wife and I have our 40th anniversary coming up in September. Thank you. And I'm looking at some of that. I'm also doing some writing. I have a book that I'm working on. I have some other creative, artistic things that I want to play with and have fun with, and I just want to be able to kick back and not have to think about the theater 24/7. And
Right.
That's what it became for me.
Sounds like there's maybe projects that you never could find the time for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about does it for this interview today. I'm not sure. I mean, I thank you guys so much for taking the time. And again, I'm, Juergen, congratulations on 30 years and all this great work you've done. And, full disclosure, LVA once collaborated a little bit on a play a few years ago, and that was a great experience, a great time. And congratulations, Skylar and Hannah, on getting the reins of power.
Well, thanks for having us on, Keith. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking for, and before we go, so say it again. The next show is
Indecent, and it will open on July 27th. Tickets go on sale June 27th, bunburytheatre.org. And do not worry, we will have a season announcement prepared, ready to go on that opening night. Maybe we'll announce a little bit earlier. We're at a retirement party. If we have it before then for Juergen, we'll see, but we're working on it, and it will be, we will lay out our path going forward with our next show. Yes.
let me just ask you, no, you don't have to say any specifics, but is there anything in this coming season that might surprise us?
Yes.
Oh,
One thing I could tell you that I didn't have to get rights for, but I want to save it as a surprise, is what we'll be doing to end the season. It will be different. I think it's something very needed in this community. And I think a lot of people who I've mentioned it to already in various circles are the board's very excited about it. A lot of people I've mentioned to are very excited about it. It's something we haven't done before, but it makes a lot of sense for Bunbury to kind of step up and take the mantle with that.
yeah, and it's a little piece that's missing from Louisville's
It is.
theater scene right now, and we want to fill that void.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I just also I want to say a big thank you to you, Keith. I mean, for all that you do
Yes.
for the community. You're at probably 90% of the shows that are out there being produced and writing about them. And it, you know, it isn't often that, you know, as producers come out and talk about reviews after they come out, unless they're bitching, moaning, and complaining about it. But I think you have done an incredible job as a theater critic, reviewer, however you label yourself. But we've appreciated that, and I have appreciated it in my time.
Well, it's a very edifying thing that I'm glad to do. And I may have to edit this part out now. So thank you guys very much. We have to end it there. Juergen Tossmann, Skylar Vest, Hannah Brooks, all in this moment of Bunbury Theatre. But as we bid adieu to Juergen as he steps aside.
Thank you.